Thank you very much. Good morning in Poland, maybe good afternoon in Sofia. I would like to present the replication of our tests, which were made on A/B test of interactive elements of web pages. So what was the reasonable for this? We would like to make the measures of eye tracking be more objective and not subjective. And we are in the process of seeking how to make them more objective. Okay, so the agenda is introduction, previous study, our methodology of the experiment, what eye tracking measures we are using, what are the results of our experiment, and what's the summary. Okay, so in the beginning, nowadays we usually are speaking about user experience, which according to the ISO norm 9241.210 is a person's perceptions and responses that result from the anticipated use of a product, system, or service. And below is the definition of the usability coming from the same ISO norm, which is known for many years, as far as I remember, about 30 years. So this is the extent of which a product can be used by specified users to achieve specified goals with effectiveness, efficiencies, and satisfaction in a specified context of use. Depending on the authors, we may find also many other differences between user experience and usability. Of course, user experience is always more subjective, depending on the, let's say, satisfaction part of the usability, not on the effectiveness or efficiency. In our experiment, we are using one of the known method, which is called first click testing method, which is a search method for evaluating where participant of the study would click first to perform a specific task. So we simply present the sometimes even static element, and we are looking where she or he will click on, and this ends the task, and the task could be, let's say, finished successfully or unsuccessfully. And A/B testing, very well known method, also used in usability testing, is a research method for comparing two different versions of interface, web page or application. It determines which one performs better with the participants of the study. So we are, the users are presented A or B versions, and we are looking for statistics which are the better according to some measures. Eye tracking, of course, so eye tracking is known more than 100 years, which was also applied in usability studies since for more than 30 years, using different methodologies, different experimental devices. However, from more than 20 years, we are using the same technology, but with an increasing quality. Eye tracking allows research to register user accurate eye scan path for the elements of the page, and the time user is paying attention to every single element. Of course, we are basing on so-called fixations. Fixations usually ranges from 100 to 500 milliseconds, and for example, the average fixation during reading is from 200 to 150, and for just scene viewing, so just more graphical elements is from 280 to 330 milliseconds. And so the definition of that fixation means stabilizing a target relative to the fovea that is being stationary or moving with respect to the head. So in the fixation is an eye is in a standstill on specific element. And also in eye tracking, we are using some kind of areas of interest notion. So it is a selected element of an interface, for example, a button or an image or a section, for which a usability metric is calculated. So as it is said even in the title, we are making the so again the experiment, but with some differences. So we in our former experiment, which was done in 220, so it was done in 219, and we published it in 220. So we used the simpler eye tracker, and the users were usually the students for computer science from the Sydney University of Technology, because it was done there. But we replicate the study with the not only students of computer science, and we made it in Poland, and we are also using the better eye tracker. As a matter of fact, that this kind of low-end eye tracker with 60 hertz of registration is not being produced by Tobii. So they switched the low end to 120. And in our recent study, we used professional eye tracker with 300 hertz so 300 hertz eye tracker. We also used the bigger screen. We reduced the number of interfaces, and we also made it with our less experienced users. And what was the methodology of our experiment? So each participant was asked to sit in front of the computer and interact with a web page by clicking of selected button. So each respondent was asked to complete 8 tasks. We finished the task when the participant clicked on a web page element. So because this is the first click experiment. So after finishing all the tasks, the participants were asking, participate in one-to-one recorded interview. And during this interview, we add some additional questions. So, for example, did you have any doubts? What should do in the specified task? And if yes, please explain why. Tell more about this in your own words, and so on. Just to take more information from the user. So during the experiment, we of course used the eye tracker, and so the eye tracker record participant gaze activity. The fixation path has been recorded, as well as the mouse activity. So out of 20 participants, 5 were students, 5 were working, and 10 declared to be working students. Exactly half of them were women, and the other were men. So with 20 participants, 8 websites with 2 versions each, user-friendly and not. So because the A version was supposed to be a beta version, and the B version supposed to be a bit worse version. Of course, the participant view only one variant of the web page. So user-friendly version of all websites have been designed to increase visibility, readability by modifying size, contrast, or adding supporting graphic elements. For example, these are two presented web pages. This one from C21 stores, and the version A, the many stores and events with appropriate iconographic, and with the B versions without iconographic. So we suppose that adding iconographic increases the usability, and the other, for example, the other store is in A version. The elements were in orange color, and in B version were gray color. So what kind of metrics we use? So time to first fixation, the number of fixation prior to the first fixation, the first fixation duration on area of interest, fixation count over area of interest, visit count over area of interest, time from the first fixation to the mouse click with the area and fixation duration in area of interest. Of course, depending on the metric, so we may suppose that the usability is better. For example, if the time to first fixation on area of interest is lower, it is better. And for example, the opposite, if the fixation count over area of interest is higher, it means it needs more processing by the user to understand what does it mean, and so on. So the less is better. So in experiment results, we verified the statistical significance. As it happens that we could not use all the results because in some cases we could not register in the proper quality all the measures. So we decided to use the two-sample t-test, which specifies the degree of freedom depending on the number of participants of A and B version, which may be different in some cases because of the quality, and we use this kind of test. And here are the results. However, in most cases, we received the expected results. So the mean versions were higher or lower for A versions as we expected. However, we even received less significant measures. So it happens only here and here for these two web pages. So we found it not very satisfactory, and as a result, so the replication we made is so that it even gives the less significant results. So unfortunately, none of introduced changes have brought the expected results, and particularly we observed even fewer significant results. And what were and even for some measures, we obtained the opposite results. And what could be the reasons for this? And so the value of the metrics depend not only on the design quality, but also on web page content. So what the page is about. And maybe also it is that the design A and B is not too different. So maybe it's not so the design B is not so bad. Also, as you've seen, we made it so in one experiment made 3 years ago. There were usually students from so we made it in Sydney. So these were the very international students coming from many different countries, and maybe it's so that these general ideas, how we should make our web pages, what is good and what is bad, is given by for this international audience, so international users, and this experiment we made in Poland, and maybe in Poland it works a bit different. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm waiting for the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Do we have any questions to the presenter? No questions, so I will start. I wanted to ask about the group, the target group, or the group of users that was used for testing. May it be also the reason that the results were not, I would say, easily distinguishable or different from the previous one, the size of the group, but maybe also some personal preferences or some, I don't know, attitude to working with the websites.
Okay, so what was the difference? So the number was pretty much the same. So in the previous was 22, in this one was 20. In the previous, these were students of computer science, but it was done in Sydney, so they come from Australia and also all these countries like China, Indonesia, and so on. So these were more or less very international. It was and in the test made in Poland, even so we have some international students, but usually because of the pandemic we made it only with most of them were Poles. So maybe that was the reason that Poles are maybe more keen to work with many obstacles, and even if something is designed not so properly, the final effect is almost the same, so it's not noticeable. So maybe that's why. The other way, maybe the differences were not so big between version A and B. Nowadays we are continue our work with the even bigger groups, some 50 for each version, so not 10 but 50, and with bigger differences between version A and B.
Mm-hmm. And one more question. What was the reason for splitting the group such that only 10 people tested site A and 10 tested B, and not making the whole group test both websites?
So it was, as a matter of fact, so it was because none of the user could see two versions, because then it would be depending on the which was first, so the other would be depending on that. So we couldn't do that. So that's why.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much for the answer, and once more for interesting presentation.